Hello everyone. This is our latest blog. I'm Alexis Mathieu. I'm looking at emerging markets for SW Venture Capital. I've just come back from Russia, and I thought I'd like to share a few of the impressions that I had from the trip. So when you think of Russia, straight away you think of a resource-based economy. And it is quite easy to see that. I mean, 80% of exports coming out of Russia are from energy, metals and mining. And when thinking of big companies, one thinks straight away of Gazprom and Lukoil, for example. As a result, the market capitalization is 70% energy, metals and mining. So when you look at investment opportunities in Russia, you would think of resources as a first entry point, I guess. But actually, at the moment, it doesn't seem to be the case. Growth is not really coming from this area of the economy, and a simple reason, for example, in oil and gas, tax regime is not very profitable for companies and hinders them taking profits from commodity prices going up. So investors nowadays are more interested, and rightly so, about the consumer story of Russia. Coming out of the recession, you see that the Russian population does not seem to be that much in debt, and can have, if wage increases, disposable income available to spend in the economy. Also, this time around, the Central Bank of Russia and the government seems to have targeted a diversification in the economy, and seems to be keen on focusing on controlling inflation instead of letting letting it go and focusing on the currency. So pre-crisis levels, the inflation levels were double digits, for example, which is quite astounding. So when looking at the consumer story, four sectors come to mind, and four sectors that I'd like to talk to you about. Retailers is one of them. You've got giants like X5 and Magnet who are doing extremely well, and retail consumption month on month is increasing quite substantially. But it seems like investors are already on this page, and retailers are quite favoured by foreign investors. The banking industry is also a very interesting one, with more than 1,000 banks present in the industry. There is room for consolidation, and you've got two national champions in Sberbank and VTB. I'd like to point to you the fact that Sberbank, for example, has 50% market share in deposits, which make it a very stable bank with a good funding base, and if exposed to loan growth in the future, it could be an interesting idea to look at. Also, commercial real estate is one that, if you go to Russia, will definitely find interesting. For example, during the trip, I was able to go and have a look at the Golden Babylon, which is probably one of the largest shopping centers in Europe, as well as Mall of Russia, which is located in the equivalent of Canary Wharf in Moscow, and which will open in December and has already a good portion of its leases sorted out. And lastly, two internet companies which are due to IPO, two national champions which are definitely making Facebook and Google very humble, are Mail.ru and Yandex, which in the Russian market are market leaders. So looking at all these different companies and sectors, one can forget that Russia remains a high risk and high reward market. One of the reasons being political risk is very present in Russia, and if talking to anyone, they will point out that it seems all decisions are made from one person in the Kremlin, and to a certain extent they will not be wrong. So when looking at ideas in Russia, it is important to understand the political side of the country, and definitely culture and history, and how it's come to be what it is now. When looking at, for example, stories like Yukos and all these experienced investors who were in Russia and are now very cautious because of the imprisonment of who was back then the richest man in Russia, and caused for foreign investors big financial losses. Another risk would be corporate governance and the lack of communication to investors, which is something that has been pointed out quite frequently. And from my trip, I had the impression that companies were really willing to improve on that, and have dedicated investors relations, communicating very regularly to investors and prospective investors, as well as CFOs coming to meetings now and being happy to answer questions on even sensitive topics like corruption. It is not all positive, but I guess it is moving in the right direction. And as an analyst, I definitely want to have a close look at that when looking at different ideas. I guess our investment process does not change much. We're still looking at bottom-up ideas, but focusing also on the bigger picture and macro trends, and definitely politics in Russia. And we also like to use local brokerage services to get the information straight from Russia, instead of waiting for them to get to London. So on this note, thank you very much for listening to me, and goodbye.